Hey Tim, thanks for sending me your swim video for analysis. The first thing I'm looking at is the number of strokes you take per 25. Add that up to get your swell score. I'm sure your Garmin or other device calculates that as well. Generally, you are between 19 and 22 strokes per length, anywhere between 20 and 23 seconds per 25 yards. So next I look at breathing, body balance, rotation, and kick. That kind of all goes together. And then I look at the three main phases of the stroke. What's going on with your arm out of the water recovery, because that affects phase 2, how you enter. And then how you enter ultimately affects the catch and the push behind you past your hip. So the main thing I noticed is how much you drop your arm when you breathe. So let's look at body balance. When you're swimming, the weight of your body should be on your sternum. You want to tuck your chin a little bit. That looks fine. Rotation, you do breathe one side frequently, very dominantly. So you are rotating on that left hip when you breathe right. I think you're breathing too frequently. And then a little bit more about balance is you have a slight split kick, especially when you breathe. And you are kicking relatively, in my mind, a lot more than you have to, and it's not necessarily propelling you forward. You should just kick enough so your legs don't sink, and the kick should come from the hip flexor and quad, just enough to provide that body balance. And you should be able to rotate from left hip to right hip even when you're not breathing. It's a little bit more difficult to see if you're doing that because you do frequently breathe to one side every left-right arm stroke. I would like to see you cut that down and maybe try to breathe every fourth stroke. And eventually, bilateral breathing will help with that body balance, rotation component of the stroke. So let's talk about the main issue that you have with your stroke is every time you breathe, you drop that left arm. So when you're rotating your head to the side to take an inhale, this left arm is falling. So even with your head out to the side to inhale, the arm is way down here versus being up near your ear. And if you do that extra extension when you breathe, that's going to help with not only body balance, but you're going to in turn get a stronger left arm catch and push. Every time you inhale and your arm drops, and then all of a sudden you put your face back in the water with your arm already by your hip, you just missed out on a propulsive left arm stroke. So the fact that you breathe very frequently tells me that you're always missing out on a left arm propulsive stroke. The next thing I'm looking at is hand entry. You do have a slight extension with your right hand. So I'm going to, prescribe some hand entry drills. I think the place that you enter, your hand entry placement actually looks pretty good. So ideally, when you're coming around, you want to enter with your fingertips below the wrist, below the elbow. Enter fingertips below the wrist, below the elbow. When you pull, the fingertips are below the wrist, below the elbow. And that underwater catch and push is what's going to help drive your hip rotation. So an easy way to think about rotation is when you enter with your right hand, you rotate on your right hip. When you enter with your left hand, you rotate on your left hip. But what's ultimately driving that rotation is your underwater catch and push. And going back to what I already said, because you drop that left arm when you breathe, when you turn your head to inhale, you drop your left arm. You're missing out on a propulsive pull with your left arm. And you're not necessarily driving your rotation to your right hip because you have a very weak or non-existent left arm pull. So again, the main thing I want you to focus on is when you inhale, I want you to do a little extra extension with that left arm. After you take your inhale and you turn your face down, you're going to start your left arm pull, and that's going to drive your right hip rotation. So a few drills to really help that is the side kick balance drill, the double pump drill, and just really being mindful of it, because once you fix that, you'll definitely see an increase in speed because you'll be pulling more with that left arm. and your stroke count will go down. Generally, in a 25-yard pool, I like to see stroke count between 14 and 20 strokes. So you're not too far off, but when you get above 20 in a yard pool, you're taking a little bit more than what I would like to see. So anyways, I hope this all makes sense to you, and I look forward to seeing some progress. Make it a great day.